Haason Reddick this, Haason Reddick that. Where's Haason Reddick? Why isn't he here? Whose fault is it? Who should I be mad at? I'm Glenn Naughton with JetNation Radio and JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. We are 6 days away, ladies and gentlemen, from NFL football, from the New York Jets kicking off the season in San Francisco. And I don't think anybody would disagree that is the toughest game on their schedule. Week 1, San Francisco. After that, gets a lot easier on paper. Still have to execute. But the story of the day, again, is Haason Reddick, and where is he, and why isn't he in camp, and why isn't he with the team? Listen, none of us know. We're all guessing. I want to be mad at Joe Douglas. I want to be mad at Haason Reddick. I want to be mad at Woody Johnson. Maybe it's Salah's fault. Blah, 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 blah. Nobody knows. We're not in that room. But if we use a little bit of common sense, a little bit of logic here, and again, I'm guessing, just like everybody else is. I saw Dan Leberfeld of Jets Confidential tweet out earlier, there's got to be something more to this. And maybe there is. Maybe it's not just Joe Douglas negotiating with Haason Reddick's people. As I've said before, we've been told by Connor Hughes, who again, and I said this at the time, when this story came out, when this news broke of where the Jets stood with Haason Reddick, what they'd offered him, what he promised them, what they said to him, it sounded an awful lot like the Jets made an offer to him that wasn't a huge pay raise, but guaranteed the salary he's got on the books this year, which wasn't enough for Reddick. But the Jets brought him in anyway, and the Jets probably figured. And here's the thing. Here's one of the things. There's a lot of things going on here, right? But as far as whether or not Joe Douglas misjudged this situation, I can't find a single person, fan, Jets fan, NFL fan, reporter, beat writer, national reporter. Nobody is looking at this and saying, this is a really good move for Haason Reddick. He's doing the right thing here. Nobody. Everybody sees that Haason Reddick is just costing himself a bunch of money that will, as I said the other day, it will enter a stratosphere, the amount of lost cash where he will not be able to get it back. And it will be a net loss for Haason Reddick. And as I said to someone earlier, our good friend Gus, we went back and forth on Twitter a little bit. He said, what's your gut feeling? I said, my gut feeling is he's back by week 1. And Gus said, I'm not so sure. And I said, you know what, Gus, you're right. I should have phrased that better. The logical side of me says he'll be back. Why? Quite simple. He's not in camp right now because he wants more money. If he sits out too long, he will end up losing more than he will end up losing enough that he won't be able to get it back. So it will be a net loss. So the practical, logical side of me says he'll be back. My gut says this has dragged on longer than it should have already. And this is the Jets, so you never know. Maybe Reddick isn't back with the Jets, or there is no back. He hasn't been with them yet. Maybe Reddick is with the Jets in a few days, but maybe not. And maybe he does sit out for 10 or 11 weeks. Or maybe he does show up and say, ow, my hamstring, I can't walk right. I got to sit down for the next rest of the season. And he doesn't play. Really, you can't dismiss any option at this point because it's gotten way further than it should have. But in terms of, should I be mad at Haason Reddick? Should I be mad at Joe Douglas? Listen, Reddick wants his money, which I can't blame him for. Can't blame him one bit. Douglas brought Reddick in at a bargain price, a future third and $15 million a year for an elite pass rusher. I can't knock him for that. So I'm not knocking Douglas on this. And again, just a theory. But Joe Douglas, while he is the general manager, while he is the guy who decides, which players he would like to bring in, he brings guys in, he isn't the one who decides whether or not they're going to be paid what they want. Now, he can be a part of the negotiation. He can find out what a guy wants. But at the end of the day, it's Woody Johnson's money. I'm sure Chris Johnson has some say. I've been told Jaime Elhai has a lot of say when it comes to how much money the Jets hand out. And if Woody or Chris or Jaime or whoever were part of these conversations where Reddick supposedly, reportedly said, okay, I'll come in and prove my worth again before I expect a huge payday. If they were in the room for that and they're saying, you know what, we're not changing our stance. This is what we agreed to. And Joe Douglas said the other day, we've been very clear in our messaging with Haason Reddick and that they respect Haason Reddick and his agent. But Joe Douglas is sitting there saying we've been very clear in our messaging. They've let Connor Hughes know so that he could get it out to the fans that they made him an offer. Wasn't a huge offer, but guarantee his salary. So the Jets, it would appear, have gone as far as they're willing to go. That doesn't mean Joe Douglas has gone as far as he's willing to go, or that the team has gone as far as Joe Douglas would like them to go. For all we know, Joe Douglas can be sitting in Woody Johnson's office or talking to Jaime Elhai and saying, guys, can we please just give this guy what he wants and get him in here? Can we please just guarantee his salary and throw a few million on top of that and get this guy in here? We don't know. But as I said, what we can take away, what we do know, Saleh wants him in his lineup. You're a defensive-minded head coach with one of the best pass rushers in the NFL under contract with your team. You want him there. Joe Douglas traded for him. He wants him there. But the issue, the hang-up, is the money. And I'm not putting this on Joe Douglas. In a time where, again, he's not the guy who ultimately decides how much money will be given to these guys. But the other part of this, and I saw this mentioned months ago, and it had kind of slipped my mind because I thought, no big deal. It's a little slump, whatever. But if you look at Haason Reddick's numbers at the end of last season, over the final 5 weeks, I believe, of the year, no sacks, just a couple of QB hits. Like, he wasn't the Haason Reddick that teams have come to know. So are the Jets looking at this and saying, or did the Jets look at this and say, if Haason Reddick has lost a step, he's still worth a third rounder and $15 million. We'll do that. But if he wants the big money, and this is the part they reportedly told him, if you want the big money, you've got to come in and show you've still got it. You've got to come in and perform before we'll entertain that notion. And Haason Reddick, again, reportedly agreed to that. And then the season comes around, and Haason Reddick says, you know what? I don't want to come in and show you what I can do. I don't want to get on the field and show you what I'm capable of. And I'm not saying he's washed or he's got nothing left in the tank. But I don't think it's unfair for the Jets to consider that and say, you know what? This guy agreed to come in to show us what he's got. And now all of a sudden, he doesn't want to do that. He just wants the money before we see the product. So, in that sense, I sympathize with the Jets. But Reddick's he's 30. And he doesn't have a ton of miles because he played limited reps early on in his career. There should be no issue. And I'm not going to, I haven't gone back and watched his final 5 games of the year with the Eagles. So I'm not going to sit here and box score scout and say he wasn't good. All I know is that he wasn't productive. And if you want to be paid $28 million a year, you better be productive. So whether or not the Jets end up caving here, because Haason Reddick is the last one. Haason Reddick is the last holdout in the NFL. The Jets' week 1 opponent, the San Francisco 49ers, they got Brandon Ayuk done. They got Trent Williams done. And McCaffrey, who was injured, he's back. I mean, the Niners are ready to roll now. Full strength. The Jets, mostly full strength. But the thing is, with the Jets, even without Reddick, I've been making this point for weeks. And if you missed it, the same point was made earlier today by Peter Schrager of the NFL Network, who said that basically he picked the Jets to earn the number 1 seed in the playoffs, which would be phenomenal. And it is feasible. It's not a far-fetched notion. He picked the Jets, and he made a point that I've been making for a while now, is that without Haason Reddick, the Jets defense is very good. With Haason Reddick, it can be great. But without Reddick, you've got Quinnen Williams, Quincy Williams, Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, Jermaine Johnson, I think we're going to see a big year out of Kinlaw, CJ Mosley, Michael Carter in the slot. You've got enough pieces on this defense with or without Reddick to be a very good defense. If you are a very good defense and you have on offense Aaron Rodgers, Breece Hall, and Garrett Wilson, who even Bill Belichick was raving about the other day, to go along with Mike Williams and Conklin and a rebuilt offensive line. That offensive group plus very good defense is absolutely a 10-plus win team. Reddick makes them better. You bring him in, then they become a 12 or 13 win team. Ideally. But they don't need Reddick to get to the playoffs. They would like him. And the evidence of this is, and again, having said that Douglas and Saleh would like him, and they don't look panicked. They don't look worried. They look pretty confident, even if what they're saying isn't 100% true. Joe Douglas says, oh, this isn't frustrating. It sure as hell is frustrating. You acquired one of the best pass rushers in the NFL and he won't show up to camp. That's frustrating. I don't care what Joe Douglas says. But he's playing it cool. He's chilled out about it. He knows what he's got. He believes Will McDonald's about to make a jump. As I said, he's got JJ. He's got Quinnen. Kinlaw put on all that muscle. We'll see if that pays any dividends. Some of the young kids have looked good, but, we'll see what they haven't played any real snaps yet. We'll see what happens with these young guys, with the Leonard Taylors of the world, the McGregors of the world, the Eric Watts. We'll see how those guys do. But right now, the Jets have one of the best rosters in the NFL. With or without Haason Reddick, yes, if you add him, it gets that much better. And there are young guys who are going to get the chance to prove themselves. So I don't think the Jets have any reason to panic. And I see people saying, oh my God, they traded for them. So obviously they know they need him. Well, just because you see a bargain, and that's what Reddick was, the Jets probably felt like this guy isn't going to sit out and cost himself more than he's going to make. He's not going to be willing to allow a net loss to happen. That may have been a miscalculation on the part of the Jets, but can you blame them? If you tell me as a GM, this dude right now is more worried about his money than anything else, and he's available for trade. And if I do the math and go, all right, if we bring that guy in, he'll hold out for a little bit, but by, such and such point, he will start losing more money than he could ever make back, and money's his primary concern. I feel safe dealing for this guy, knowing he might hold out a few weeks, but he's going to be there week 1 or 2. And then you're wrong. Fine. Okay, great. I was wrong. I didn't realize this guy was willing to shoot himself in the foot. And that's not something you can anticipate or guess. So that's where the Jets are right now. Reddick is, it would appear, engaged in a game of chicken with the Jets. How far are they willing to let it go before they make an offer? How far is he willing to let it go before he shows up for camp? You've got NFL Network picking the Jets to win or to get the number 1 seed in the AFC, which is, as I said, I talked about it the other day, and I said you can't name, I mean, you could, but you couldn't with a straight face name 2 or 3 teams with more talent than the Jets right now. You just can't. And that's fine. And I get it. Same old Jets, and the Jets, that you have to earn respect. I get that. But there are people talking about this Jets team like Brooks Bollinger is still a quarterback. That's not the case. That's long gone. So this Jets team is good enough, or the team has enough talent that they deserve to be shown a little bit more respect. They aren't by some outsiders at this point, but you're seeing more and more insiders, national people who, and how hilarious. I've seen people, I saw a comment earlier. This just shows the NFL Network carries water for the Jets. The Jets have been a national media punching bag for most of my time as a Jets fan over 38 years, 37, whatever the hell it is. To hear people say, oh, clearly the media loves the Jets. Are you kidding me? Just accept the reality and say, hey, man, listen, maybe the Jets go 0-17. I don't know. But right now, as we sit here with the season about to start, They have a ton of talent, and they should win a bunch of football games. Let's see. Frank says Haason Reddick was known as a cancer. JD should have stayed away. Elijah Moore and Jamal Adams were in the rear view, and we didn't need another. Well, Frank, look, I'm not going to pretend I know anything to the contrary. I've never heard Reddick's a cancer. Shows up, plays hard, produces. Yes, he's been upset about his money, but if you look at what his peers are making versus what he's making, and look, I don't love every holdout. Sometimes I think guys get a little over the top of the holdouts. This is one of those. I look at what he makes and what his peers make, and I'm like, you know what? If I was that dude, I'd probably be asking for more money too. Plays a premium position, produces at an elite level, and is paid like a middle of the road to above average guy. So I have no problem with Reddick going for that. I don't think, again, JD, if the Eagles had wanted a 1 or a 2, I'd say stay away. But if the Jets are as good as we believe they will be, that third round pick, you're talking high 80s, low 90s. I'm not so sure I worry about that. Frank says he tanked. I won't pretend to know that. As I said, I haven't watched the Eagles games. I know that whole team fell apart. They lost a bunch of games down the stretch to miss the playoffs, or maybe they just didn't play well. They may have made the playoffs. I forget. If he tanked, that would be bad because then no one's paying him. The Jets aren't paying him when he's a free agent. No one's paying him. When you tank, you nothing will kill your value faster than that. So if a guy's trying to get paid, decides to tank, then he's doing the exact opposite of what he should be doing. But it is interesting. The fact that he's not showing up now to prove his worth is surprising. We will see guys in his place. We will see McGregor. We will see Watts. We will see McDonald. We will see these guys. But and I touched on this the other day, and I wanted to mention it again because it drives me crazy because I've seen a few people say it. Braden McGregor. Oh, he beat second and third stringers. Eric Watts beat second and third stringers. Leonard Taylor beat second and third stringers. Why do fans do this? Why do NFL fans watch an ungodly amount of college football, God knows how many hours of college football, and watch a player beat up on high school kids or guys who are a year or two out of high school or guys who will never sniff an NFL roster? And we all clamor, draft that guy. Look at his. Did you see him against Purdue? Did you see him against FSU? Did you see him against Vandy? We got to draft this guy. He's a monster. And then he gets drafted or undrafted, but enters the league, playing at the highest level he's ever played in his life, dominates, and we go, big deal. Who cares? Second stringer. That second stringer, that third stringer, they're all better than the high school kid that they were beating in college that had you clamoring to please pick that guy and put him on the roster. Please make that make sense to me. I'm Glenn Naughton. That'll wrap this one up. JetNation.com, most active Jets message board on the web. Check it out. Have a good one, Jets fans.